Fiona Moon had spent the last 6 months convincing herself that a coat of fresh paint, a new roof over the solarium, and a menu full of seasonal tarts were all it would take to erase the memory of the fire. The blaze had been small. No one hurt, only an ancient fuse box and half of the west wing singed. But headlines had a way of magnifying every spark. One local blogger dubbed her place the charbroiled B&B, and reservations dried up like puddles in July. That was why the grand reopening of Moonlight Manor mattered so much. If she could impress Sterling Price, the globe-trotting culinary critic whose column Price Points appeared in everything from glossy magazines to the town's own weekly gazette, she'd have bookings through winter. Sterling's reputation was brutal. A single scathing sentence could shutter restaurants. Still, Fiona believed her honey lavender lemon tart, golden under a glaze of wildflower honey, could melt the starch out of the surliest palate. By 4 o'clock on Saturday, the manor gleamed. Anemones bloomed in urns, foxgloves swayed in the herb garden, and the lobby smelled of lemon zest and beeswax polish. Niece Rose, cheeks flushed with anticipation, checked final room assignments. Jonah Reyes, Fiona's longtime friend and newly hired pastry chef, strode from kitchen to dining room in a starched white jacket, delivering samples to staff with the solemnity of a priest offering communion. Guests trickled in, honeymooners from Portland, a retired librarian and her dachshund, a podcaster hunting local ghost stories. Moonlight Manor had once been a sanitarium, each greeted with the tartlets served on a willow pattern plate. But all chatter hushed when Sterling Price strode through the double doors at 5 sharp. He was taller than his photographs suggested, silver hair slicked back, linen suit the colour of bleached sea glass. His assistant trailed behind, balancing a leather portfolio and voice recorder. "Ms. Moon," Sterling said, extending a hand as though conferring knighthood. "I trust your reputation for resilience matches my reputation for candour." "Welcome to Moonlight Manor, Mr. Price," Fiona replied, deciding right then she would not let him smell her fear. "May I tempt you with our signature tart? Lead on." She ushered him to the parlour, where a single tart rested beneath a glass cloche. Jonah emerged with a small silver knife. Cameras clicked. Local reporters rounded the doorway, hoping for a reaction shot. Sterling cut a slender wedge, raised it to the light, and inhaled. Lavender, ambitious. A lesser baker lets it taste like soap. He took a bite, chewed, and gave a thoughtful nod. Surprisingly delicate for such an assertive herb. For a moment, Fiona felt her lungs inflate fully for the first time in months. Then Sterling's fingers jerked. The plate shattered on the parquet. He clutched his throat, eyes bulging as if he had seen some ghost from the manor's past. 2 syllables, too bitter, escaped before he crumpled onto the tart fragments. Pandemonium followed. Guests screamed. Someone dialed 911. Jonah tried the Heimlich, though Sterling made no sound. Fiona knelt, tasting copper at the back of her tongue, but the critic's eyes had already filmed over. An ambulance whisked him away, though everyone understood the siren's purpose was ceremonial. Minutes later, the police sealed the manor. Detective Isla Grant, a newcomer with keen hazel eyes, took command. Until cause of death is confirmed, no one leaves. Health inspectors will collect all dishes. Miss Moon, you prepared the tart. Jonah baked it, Fiona managed. I glazed it myself. Fresh honey from Luke Anders's apiary. Grant's expression didn't change. Where do you grow your lavender? In the garden, near the foxglove, Rose offered, voice trembling. Grant's pen paused. Foxglove is a source of digitalis, a cardiac toxin. If Mr. Price was poisoned, we'll test everything for it. Jonah swore softly. I handle dozens of herbs every day. I know how to keep them separate. Still, Grant replied, we'll verify. In the meantime, Ms. Moon, you and your staff remain persons of interest. Fiona felt the room tilt. Her grand reopening had turned into a crime scene. The medical examiner's preliminary report landed on Detective Grant's desk by dawn. Acute digitalis poisoning. Trace amounts in Sterling's blood topped therapeutic levels tenfold. Matching traces appeared in the tart's honey glaze, none in the custard beneath. Someone had brushed poison on last after the tart cooled. By breakfast, local news vans lined the drive, proclaiming murder at Moonlight Manor. Fiona watched from an upstairs window, fists balled against the sill. She would not let her grandmother's home become a tabloid punchline. Grant interviewed staff one by one in the conservatory. When Fiona's turn came, the detective gestured toward a wrought-iron chair. Walk me through yesterday afternoon. Fiona recounted the timeline. Tart baked at noon, cooled by 2, glaze applied at 3, placed under glass at 4. She had ducked into the kitchen at 4:40 to fetch napkins, leaving the parlour briefly unattended. Jonah had remained in the pantry prepping petit fours. Rose escorted guests to rooms. The bellhop helped carry Sterling's luggage. Anyone could have slipped in. Who knew the critic would taste that specific tart first? Grant asked. Everyone. The reopening schedule was posted in the lobby. Fiona hesitated. But motives. Sterling wielded power. He'd written scathing pieces about dozens of chefs. Grant raised a brow. Including Jonah Reyes. Jonah's bistro in San Francisco had closed 2 years earlier after a merciless price points review. Salt straight, all brine, no shine. Jonah never spoke of it, but Fiona had seen how his jaw tightened whenever Sterling's name surfaced. Still, Jonah had been her friend since cooking school. She refused to believe he would sabotage the very B&B he'd helped resurrect. She would find whoever had. First lead, the honey. Luke Anders's jars carried a distinctive teal wax seal. The glaze jar Detective Grant collected bore a similar seal, but no label. Fiona phoned Luke, who agreed to meet at his apiary on the windswept bluff. Luke wore a netted hat and smelled faintly of smoke from the bee smoker. I gave you a full crate last week. Every jar labelled. Show me the one from the police. Fiona produced a photo on her phone. That's odd, Luke muttered. Teal wax, yes, but the stamp of my logo, a crescent moon with wings, has been scraped off. Could someone else reuse your jars? Sure, but that wax is my custom blend. Candelilla and pine resin. Hard to mimic. 3 nights ago, someone broke into my storage shed. Nothing valuable missing, or so I thought. Maybe a jar or 2. Who would want to frame me using your honey? Fiona asked, though names already jostled in her mind. Mara Sterling, owner of the rival Seaview Lodge. Local reporter Pam Wheeler desperate for clicks. Even Jonah, if resentment festered deeper than she knew. Luke touched her arm gently. Let me know how I can help. On her drive back, coastal fog rolled over the windshield like ghostly foam. Moonlight Manor's turret rose from the mist, its windows now peppered with camera flashes, paparazzi eager for a glimpse of the accused innkeeper. Second lead, security footage. The new system, installed after the fire, covered every corridor, but the camera above the parlour door had gone dark between 4:30 and 5:12 p.m. Grant's technicians confirmed the blackout wasn't a mechanical glitch. Someone had overridden the feed and deleted data. Only 2 people besides Fiona knew passwords, Jonah and Rose. Yet passwords could be guessed, especially by someone acquainted with her love of classic cinema. Casablanca 42 wasn't subtle. Fiona sought Rose in the laundry annex, where steam billowed from industrial dryers. The 21-year-old folded sheets with robotic precision, tear tracks silvery on her cheeks. "Auntie, Detective Grant thinks I sabotaged the camera." "Did you?" "No," Rose sobbed. "But I may have mentioned the password to someone." "Who?" Rose twisted a pillowcase. "Evan Sterling." She swallowed. "Mara Sterling's son." Fiona's mouth parted. Mara Sterling, not related to the critic despite the surname, owned Seaview Lodge, perched on the clifftop half a mile away. Competition between the 2 inns went back decades, though mostly cordial. Evan, a computer science dropout turned handyman, had been flirting with Rose for weeks. "He asked how our new system worked," Rose admitted. "I thought he was just impressed. I didn't realize—" Fiona pulled her niece into a hug. "We'll fix this." The Manor's west veranda overlooked Mara's property, painterly lawns, white Adirondack chairs, a gazebo trimmed with fairy lights. Fiona crossed the distance in 10 minutes flat. Mara greeted her in a coral pink cardigan, veneer of hospitality uncracked. "Fiona, I heard about that dreadful incident. How are you holding up?" "Less than ideal," Fiona said, stepping closer so none of Mara's staff could overhear. "Your son Evan accessed my security feed." "Why?" "Evan wouldn't hurt a fly." "Maybe not, but someone deleted footage that would show who tampered with the tart." Mara's smile thinned. "Are you accusing us of murder?" "I'm stating facts." Before Mara could answer, Detective Grant appeared at the boundary hedge. "Ms. Moon, I need you back for additional questions. Ms. Sterling, please make yourself available as well." As they walked, Fiona whispered, "Did you follow me?" Grant shrugged. "I follow the evidence, which right now moves faster than a fox in a henhouse." "Then keep up," Fiona replied, surprising them both. That evening, Grant assembled the primary suspects in the parlour, resurrecting an Agatha Christie tableau only partially marred by police tape and forensic swabs. Jonah, Rose, Mara, Evan, Luke, and Pam Wheeler, the reporter, formed a semicircle around the detective's tablet, which displayed toxicology charts like pagan runes. Grant spoke crisply. "Digitalis found on honey glaze. Digitalis comes from foxglove in Ms. Moon's garden. However, pollen analysis reveals the poison was mixed with granulated sugar first, then dissolved in warmed honey. Whoever poisoned the glaze had access to Fiona's sugar pantry." She fixed her eyes on Jonah. "Mr. Reyes, you store sugar by the 50-pound sack." Jonah's jaw muscles flexed. "And I accounted for every sack. The poisoner used maybe a tablespoon, easy to scrape from the top of an open container without my noticing." Grant nodded. "Which implicates anyone stepping into the kitchen," Pam Wheeler chimed in. "Including Fiona herself. A ruined reputation makes a juicy redemption arc when she uncovers the killer. It's practically publicity." "Enough," Fiona snapped. Her breath rattled, but she pressed on. "Detective, earlier you said Sterling's last words were too bitter." "Digitalis tastes intensely bitter." That suggests he detected it, however faintly, which means the dose was borderline. A professional chemist or physician would pick a faster-acting toxin. This was amateur work relying on coincidence. Grant didn't dispute her. "Any theory on motive?" Fiona looked at Jonah, Rose, then Mara. "Sterling's reviews created enemies. Jonah's restaurant folded. Luke's honey lost shelf space when Sterling championed a competing brand last year." Mara feared a glowing review of Moonlight Manor would eclipse Seaview Lodge. Pam Wheeler would kill for traffic. A web of grievances. She inhaled. I propose we locate the missing jar. The poisoner didn't toss it in a trash bin that could incriminate them. They hid it on site. Grant considered, then motioned 2 officers. Search teams, you heard the lady. Fiona joined the search, scouring pantry shelves, cellar alcoves, even the dumbwaiter shaft. Near midnight, a rookie cop shouted from the greenhouse attached to the kitchen wing. Everyone assembled amid tomato vines and dangling fairy lights. The officer held the teal wax jar, 2/3 full of viscous amber. A single fingerprint shone on the glass, powdered into visibility. Evan blanched. That's not mine. Grant collected the jar. Fingerprint ID will confirm, but your reaction speaks volumes. Mara stepped in front of her son. He wouldn't poison anyone. He was with me all afternoon arranging the floral centerpieces. Jonah scoffed. You think Foxglove just walked out of the garden by itself? Grant lifted a gloved hand. Motive first. Evan, why access the security feed? Evan's shoulders slumped. Mum asked me to peek. She wanted to know how busy Fiona's reopening was. Pure market research, I swear. Mara's cheeks flushed. Everyone spies on competition. But deleting footage? Grant pressed. Not me, Evan insisted. I copied it to my laptop. When I saw the critic collapse, I panicked and erased my copy, but I never touched the Manor's system. Grant sighed. Until we process prints, you remain a suspect. Fiona watched Mara clutch her son like a shield. The scene rang false. Mara rarely showed overt emotion. Now despair radiated from every pore, unless she performed for the room. Fiona scanned the greenhouse floor. Tiny purple petals dotted the flagstones beneath the potting table. Foxglove blossoms. Yet the greenhouse contained no foxglove. They grew outdoors. Someone had dropped petals while transferring leaves. The potting table's edge bore a faint streak of golden glaze, and tucked beneath a burlap sack lay a coral-pink cardigan button. Fiona knelt, lifting it with tweezers from a gardener's tools. Detective, looks like your culprit is fond of vibrant knitwear. She faced Mara. Mara's facade crumbled. You don't understand. Sterling promised to feature Seaview Lodge next month if I hosted him privately tonight. Then he announced he'd dine nowhere else until publishing his Moonlight Manor review. He teased that it might be his most savage yet. One headline like that, and my off-season numbers would nosedive. I panicked. How did you get the poison? Grant asked, voice low. Foxglove is everywhere. I googled how to steep it, Mara whispered. I slipped into Fiona's kitchen while she fetched napkins, stirred the brew into the honey, thinking, just a stomach upset to delay the review. I never meant to kill him. You added too much, Grant said. Digitalis has a narrow therapeutic window. Any amateur brewing could be lethal. Evan grabbed his mother's arm, eyes wet. You said Sterling just tripped. I had to protect us, Mara sobbed. I wiped the camera so no one would see me. Grant radioed for cuffs. Mara Sterling, you're under arrest for the murder of Sterling Price. As officers led Mara away, flashbulbs erupted outside. Pam Wheeler's grin looked carnivorous. The next morning, Grant returned, fatigue etched under her eyes. Forensic lab confirmed Mara's prints on the honey jar and digitalis residue in her blender at Seaview Lodge. Evan's laptop contained the deleted footage, just like he claimed. You're cleared, Miss Moon. Relief flooded Fiona so fast her knees wobbled. Thank you, Detective. Don't thank me. Thank your own persistence. Few civilians think clearly under that kind of strain. After a fire, you learn crisis triage. Fiona managed a smile. Grant's lips twitched. If you ever want a side gig in investigative work, call me. She left Fiona amid sunlight that slanted through stained glass transoms, illuminating dust motes like confetti. Repairs took a week, replacing police tape with garlands, rewashing every dish twice, and sending personal apologies to each guest. Many rebooked, eager to see where a real murder had occurred, morbid curiosity trending on social media under serious Moonlight mystery. On Friday evening, Fiona placed a fresh honey lavender tart on the parlour table. Jonah stepped beside her, wiping flour from his palms. Ready to tempt fate again? As long as we define fate as blissful customers, Fiona replied. Luke arrived carrying a crate of honey, each jar newly labelled. On the house, he declared, and sealed with a holographic ribbon so no one can scrape it off. Rose set crystal goblets and whispered, I changed all the passwords, Auntie. Even I can't guess them. Outside, cars crunched on gravel. Fiona smoothed her indigo dress and opened the door to guests old and new. In the foyer, she raised her voice. Welcome to Moonlight Manor. We believe every bite should be memorable, for all the right reasons. Laughter sparkled, nerves dissolved, and conversation swelled like a tide. The manor lived again. Fiona breathed in the mingled scents of lemon zest, beeswax, and possibility, and this time the air felt wholly her own.